Do single men marry for love or when they're ready? These two camps genuinely exist, but I think more men lean toward the ready camp. There is no one-size-fits-all answer to this question. I proposed to my best friend in my mid-20s. At the time, I was madly in love, but I wasn't economically ready or emotionally intelligent for the institution of marriage. I simply wasn't wise enough to overcome performance anxiety. She couldn't wait for me. Her fertility clock was ticking. My light bulb was still flickering. A single man's readiness during the stage of courting women is both a societal burden and a weak excuse for not holding down a long-term relationship. But for the ready camp, love does not outweigh being pragmatic. Marriage has socioeconomic benefits, but our individual desires is a force to be reckoned with. And now career women are increasingly finding motherhood complicated. No one lives in a vacuum. Historically, marriage went from an economic arrangement to a love-based union, and now priorities are shifting again. In that viral Twitter thread, love, just like a Pew survey recently indicated, is still the number one reason why people get married. But there is still a masculine fear about being the right man, the right economically and spiritually sound husband. In my mid-20s, location in my long-distance relationship was the number one burden, but economic fear and varying levels of manhood and masculinity certainly clouded my judgment. And I'm not the only one. Here's a Pew stat. Quote, however, being a good financial provider was seen as particularly important for men to be a good husband or partner, according to a 2017 survey by the Center. About 7 in 10 adults, 71%, said it was very important for a man to be able to support a family financially to be a good husband or partner, while just 32% said the same for a woman to be a good wife or partner, end quote. Now, for other couples, too much emphasis on a ring on a wedding day and not enough emphasis on mutual interest, the things you have in common and the way in which it progresses and naturally evolves is a recipe for disaster, because it's going to make marriage feel like a surface level obligation, and men don't want to feel disposable. Now, the ready stages are different, but they also share similar anxieties. It's not always gender specific. Just because a woman is more likely to want to marry doesn't mean she is ready for marriage. Ideally, timing is right when you find the right person, but you can't dismiss the forces that shape individual behavior and challenge relationship cohesion. And in any relationship, there is always a delicate balance between managing affection and creating a sense of autonomy and individual freedom. Relationship cohesion also includes family cohesion and children cohesion. There's a lot of external forces that comes into play, not just you and her or her and him. And for anyone in the LGBTQIA community, if you have some insights on this and the way in which it plays in that community, please let me know in the comment section as well. But obviously this video is geared more toward heterosexuals. But here is psychologist Esther Perel's assessment on traditional marriage versus new marriage.
For most of history, marriage has been an economic institution. It was for companionship, for family life, for social status, and for economic reasons, land, expansion, and so forth. And we brought love to marriage. Then we brought sexuality to love. Then we brought a connection between marital happiness and sexual satisfaction, all courtesy of the democratization of contraception, the women's movement, and the gay movement. What we may call traditional marriage, to me, is that form of marriage in which, by the way, the adulterous space for most of history was the space for love, because love was not a building block, nor a foundation, nor a motive for being married.
In general, though, people marry for all sorts of reasons. A child out of wedlock, tax purposes, government entitlements, arranged marriages to maintain racial, cultural, financial, and religious lineage. Marriage is an institution and its definition and meanings vary.
We are going to cultivate this wonderful intimacy, which is no longer the traditional living together, working the land, raising the kids, and all the vicissitudes of the everyday, but intimacy as into me see. And I'm going to have this communicative experience with you, where I'm going to share my most valuable assets, which is not my land, but my internal life. My feelings, my worries, my dreams, my aspirations, and you're going to reflect back on me, and you're going to validate me, And in our relationship, I'm going to transcend my existential aloneness, because the couple has become the bulwark, the safe haven against all the insecurities, away from a much larger community in which people had their needs met by a large network, and the couple was one interaction, but not the central interaction, the organizing principle of our mythic and practical life. That today is the new marriage, I would say.
And this is yet another anecdotal experience, but when I lived abroad, I met a lot of women who were not ready. Sexually liberated women, women in polyamorous relationships. They had priorities other than marriage and children, but those priorities tended to shift at odd times. There is always that internal battle, but external forces either push you toward marriage or away from it. Marriage is a generational investment, but have faith in the risk that you take. Traditional marriage in general is declining rapidly, but there is still a desire for long-term commitment in men. It is still there. If you're physically and spiritually connected, then explicit communication about this generational investment at the right time saves a lot of time. Just know that a real man has emotions, feels inadequate at times, goes through an overwhelming amount of uncertainty when it comes to marriage. It takes communication and patience. And it's tough to hear that. But also remember that, hey, some people are just wanderlust. Some people will never get married. There have been studies that have shown that as well. So communication is key here. Thank you for watching. Have a discussion with your friends. One love, peace, and be free. If I miss anything, please leave it on the comment section. I will engage with you. Help fill my knowledge gap with all of this. I'm still learning as well. One love, peace, and be free.